I'm waiting to see if it. Yes, it's kicked in. It's me again. Yes, I have to go on with this. Like it's getting late tonight. I don't know whether It may take some time to upload this again. It's taking me, on average, well, more than an hour to upload a short video. I probably need to get some sleep in a minute, but I just need to explain the fact that I had an abortion, 2 abortions in fact in a row, which I'll tell you about, does not mean that I don't care about my daughter. And one of the reasons why I had to go into actually being public about this was not because the whole of my life was being discussed by other people, and like I had to, like, CPNs were coming round and getting me to tell them stuff that they then concocted into reports and stuff. But they have started on my daughter, like making life difficult for her as well. I will tell you more about that perhaps later, but I will tell you the story about the abortions. I was going out with 2 people, one of whom was married, and who'd said to me once that Socrates said that there were many different types of love, and that he loved his wife as a sister in a platonic way, and that there was a special love between them. He then recruited me as a different kind of love, and told me that I was his Dionysian type of love and she was his Apollonic, because he was a classics teacher. And I had to cope with being told that I was somehow to do with Dionysus or whatever, and he could do what the fuck he liked with me, basically. There were joyful times as well, but it was very traumatic. I was also going out with someone called Steve. Well, that was afterwards, actually, and I now wonder whether Steve would have shown any interest in me at all if I hadn't been going out with Bill. Because, like, when I started going out with Bill, I wore glasses, for instance. So I don't know whether Steve would have seen me as a catch at all if I hadn't been going out with Bill. But anyway, whatever, I got pregnant. When, by the way, I had been at Aberdeen University only a term, there was a split condom situation. Now, whether that was a manipulative thing or not, I don't know. I don't know about that, because I didn't even know. It all got confused. I have explained this to one of the persons involved. But anyway, I didn't want to give up my studies. I didn't want to make whoever was responsible for it, whether it was the married man or the young boy who had all his ambitions ahead of him, I didn't want to make them give up whatever it was. I mean, if there was such a special relationship with his wife, then Bill presumably didn't want to give that relationship up. So I had an abortion. Then Bill was so jealous when he found out about Steve that straight away the abortion, I wouldn't have been able to get an abortion in York. They were offering abortions in Scotland. Now, there was a lot of complications as well. Like, when I first found out I was pregnant, it was suggested that it was an ectopic pregnancy. So I had that to cope with as well. Now, anyway, I decided to get an abortion. I went ahead with the abortion. Bill found out about Steve. He said he was going to see Steve. And I don't know whether that relationship ever flourished or not. I don't know about that. But the abortion was faulty. They did the abortion on me. Then they asked me afterwards, I felt as though I'd been raped, actually, and there was all loads of breast checking going on by several doctors, about 10 different doctors in that unit in Aberdeen. It wasn't the main hospital, it was actually, I've forgotten what it's called, it was a unit apart from that. They were so concerned about breast cancer that like about 10 different doctors came to feel my breasts. But anyway, the abortion went wrong somehow, and I felt as though I'd been raped after I'd been unconscious and woke up from the anaesthetic. But I was told that if I could walk to the door, they would let me out. And I was so desperate to get out of there that even though I was in terrible pain, I walked to the door and they let me out. Then about 2 weeks later, 1 week later perhaps, I started hemorrhaging because they hadn't done the abortion properly. I was given something by a doctor in York, the GP in York, because I was back in York at that time for the half term or whatever. He gave me something called Ergo or something. Ergo, that's it. He said it might affect my mental health. I don't know whether that ever did, but he seemed to sort of say, well, I've got to give you this to stop the hemorrhaging, but it might affect your mental health and make you hysterical or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. Then I went to have a D&C in York. Steve's mother came to visit me there because she was concerned because she thought it was his. He kind of thought it was his, but didn't come himself, even though he knew I was in that hospital. Bill rescued me from that hospital and signed me out of that hospital. He then made me pregnant straight away. After that, DNC, it was about a week later or something, he said the condom had split. I didn't even want to have sex with him anyway, but anyway, he said the condom had split. It had split. Whether he'd split it himself beforehand or not put it on properly or whatever, or whether it was purposeful. I think it was purposeful because he was so jealous that somebody else might have had a kid that I'd aborted, that he wanted to give me a kid himself, that he then, by the way, forced me to abort. So I originally, when I got pregnant the second time, after I'd had this D&C, I went to see a doctor called Dr. Wiseman, who started putting stuff up me. Said, oh, you can't make a habit of this, again, as though it was my fault, and put a load of them periscope things up me, and maybe on purpose thought I wanted rid of the baby and tried to jolt it away. That was then became a miscarriage situation. So I went into York District Hospital then with a miscarriage situation, but I didn't want it to be a miscarriage, but I was just so muddled up by then. Then Bill, because he said he felt guilty, it would be so awful for a baby to miscarry, for his baby to miscarry, he said. He came and visited me in hospital and told my parents about the situation. And we went to live together for about 2 months in Selby, where his wife had friends there that were in the arts centre or something. And that he was probably sneaking around to every 5 minutes. But anyway, I was living in Selby. He went mad with me for not giving up smoking straight away in the situation I was in, and started reading. I was knitting as well. I was knitting some jumpers for my baby, but I couldn't have given up the smoking straight away. I really couldn't. I was just in such a state. And his wife had apparently threatened to shoot herself, he told me, because of the situation, and that he'd found her rocking in a chair or something with a gun to her head or something. I can't remember. Anyway, this place in Selby, dartboards all over the wall, big lorries passing all night. All he did was buy a Russian fridge and sit there reading books about when it was justifiable to send someone for an abortion. My parents were not bad, but they never came to visit or anything. They didn't go mad at the situation, and I had a photograph taken with them and my grandparents, but they weren't supportive. Bill was sort of having some thoughts about how pleased his parents would be that a grandchild was on the way, but they didn't show any support either. He would just sat there constantly as though obsessed, reading books about when it would be justifiable for an abortion. He then rang up a surgeon that he fixed it with in Aberdeen again for me to have an abortion, because he knew that it was against the law in York, but not in Scotland apparently still. So he sent me back. He drove me back to Aberdeen and dumped me at the clinic to have the second abortion, where I met a woman who'd been made pregnant by a boss who'd done the same thing, and they're all fixing up with this. It wasn't a private place. Don't worry, Bill didn't have to pay for it. He didn't have to sell his classic car or anything that he used to kind of have sex with me in. No, he was clear about that. It wasn't for any. He did have to sell it at one point, but it wouldn't been to fund anything for me. And then once he dumped me at Aberdeen University, not to continue my studies really, to get an abortion, he expected my parents to start paying for me again and sending me £40. They used to send me cheques of 40 quid to last me about 6 weeks. Anyway, I have to go through this now. I'm sorry, it's all got to come out now, because I might be murdered in Middlesbrough next week. So I'm just letting you know now. Bye.